Sir, what's your full name?
Jason John King.
Jason John King. K-I-N-G. Okay, this is December
I'll tell you a little thing about that.
This is December 22nd.
My name was John Jason. And I got in the Army and I couldn't get for convention. They got it all that way. So that's, I've carried it up since.
Okay, this is December 22nd, 1987. My name is Joe Todd. This is an interview with Jason John King in Sulphur, Oklahoma. Sir, where were you born?
Waynesboro, Tennessee. February the 8th, 1895.
Who was your father?
John M. King, Millard.
And your mother?
Well, she was a family of people that had 3 or 4 names. What I mean, I just, Sarah, Sarah Ann King. Copeland, her maiden name.
Copeland. Okay. Were your parents from Tennessee?
Huh?
Were your parents from Tennessee?
They were born in Tennessee.
Okay.
I'm sure of that.
Were either one of your grandfathers in the Civil War?
No, I don't know that they were. Of course, we only lived there. I was about 2.5 years old when we came to Shawnee, Oklahoma.
Why did the family move to Shawnee?
Well, he just a man that didn't want to stay there any longer, I guess. I can't tell you that. They had a lot of other relatives that came to Tecumseh. Tecumseh was the county seat of Pottawatomie County at that time. It later, like the capital, they took over Shawnee. It was a better town and it is easier to get to. Railroad.
What type of work did your father do?
Well, I don't know what he did in Tennessee. He farmed, and I think he done some real estate business. And he did when he come there, but of course then the people was, well, had been we came to Shawnee in 1897. I was 2.5 years old. And we lived at Tecumseh, and then they bought a place down the south not in the end of the county, but down that way. It Maud, the town of Maud now, was a pretty good town during the boom days. Of course, we went down there in 1900, and my mother died of the cancer in 1910. Then he went off down in the Choctaw country. He liked to hunt. He was a hunter and a fisherman and everything of that kind. But then he married again in 1916 and moved to Ada.
How big was Maud when you moved there?
When I moved there, I'd say they had 10 saloons. They must have 100 people each saloon. Maybe 1,000 people, something this or that. And in 1902, that branch line of the Katy, which isn't anymore, from Atoka to Oklahoma City, And of course, that was yet in the territory days. And the station, railroad station, was half a mile over in Seminole County, which Maud was built right on the line, the east side of Potawatomi County. And at that time, there was 12-bar fence on the territory line. And of course, they could have saloons in the Oklahoma territory side, and did. A lot of them said it for bootlegging, or for selling to the bootleggers at night, see, by the barrel head, by people who haul a barrel of whiskey in the wagon. Of course, I don't know what they done now with this kid.
In 1907,
1907 was statehood.
statehood. Tell me about that day.
Huh?
Tell me about Statehood Day.
Well, I couldn't tell you much.
Was it a big celebration in Maud?
No. Oh, and not more than every day. I paddle milk to the saloons in the morning before school in a bucket. Pour it out in there. They'd have a dime or something in the bucket. And what they want to put in.
What did the inside of those saloons look like?
Well, I don't know that I could describe them. there was lots going on at night, see. You could have everything. There was government license, you know, gambling and everything like that. And did have, of course, a gambling room in the saloon.
What did the saloons do with all the whiskey at Statehood?
At Statehood? Well, I can't answer that. Of course, you'd have to ask the saloon.
I know they had prohibition.
I know some of them stored the little places.
Because they had prohibition at Statehood.
Huh?
They had prohibition at Statehood.
Oh, at Ada.
Yeah.
That Indian Territory, Pontotoc County.
Yeah. No, but at Statehood they had prohibition. There were no saloons allowed after Statehood.
No, you could order whiskey for 10 years, 19 and 17. I was working on the Wildcat drilling well. And I know what was the day that happened. That 10th day, man, the driller went over to Romulus. That was the branch line of the Rock Island run down there from Shawnee. The end of the road was Asher, this Canadian River. Their big business was, you know, you could order a gallon of whiskey up to 10 years after statehood. That was 1917.
Where'd you go to school?
Huh?
Where did you go to school?
Well, we lived south of Maud for 4 years, from 1900 to 1904. There was a country school over there called Ray Schoolhouse. And it was taught by 2 teachers. My sister taught the young ones. And a man, everybody went to school in one room, in one room school there. And I started in 1901 and moved to Maud. That's where we lived. I worked and later, when I was old enough, till at 1918 when I went to Army.
Did you go through high school?
No, second year.
Second year.
I quit school the next year in 1911. My mother died in 1910.
What type of work was your father doing in those years in Maud?
Oh, he had a. We lived on a section line, and you called it King Street. Then he and our fellow was partners in an ice ship from Shawnee down there, and sold half beer. Wholesale. Toady box, and enough for a fellow to stay there to sell ice and deliver beer. And a blacksmith. He had a mill, a grist mill at the time, steam mill. You do different things. You'd butcher hogs for people, because they had a steam plant.
Did you help him butcher?
Huh?
Did you help your father butcher?
Not much. I wasn't old enough when he had that.
When did that oil field come in?
And 26 started at Seminole. I worked with the old relatives, worked for the old Prairie Company, north of Seminole, and the Prairie had a lot of 10-year leases at the time, and they wanted to test that stuff. And of course they had production at Cushing, and they kind of copied after that for the footage with it drill and released pieces. Magnolia took up a big lot of them. ITI, that was the Indian Territorial Illuminating Company. And, of course, it went to Prairie Sinclair afterwards. But I went to Texas in 23. I was working for the Magnolia. The man said, well, they're bringing in the rotaries, the first rotaries, you see. And they didn't have the improved rough bits like later. And it finally all went to rotary. And that's why I was down in Texas.
Yeah.
And I stayed down there 4 years. I came back up to Maud in July of 27. I didn't stay about a year.
What did you do until you joined the Army? What kind of work? Up till 1918?
19 and 18?
Yeah.
I was working on the Wildcat Well at the time.
Okay. Where?
Half a mile southeast of Maud, in Seminole County. But it never did produce anything. Mm-hmm. They didn't go deep enough. We only went about 3,400. Of course, it wasn't finished at that time, and I went, and then I come back and worked on the same well afterwards, till they declared it no good. The fellow in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, his name was Davis, Davis. Well, anyhow, I worked with his uncle. He'd put in a lot of years down in British West Indies. But he lived in Pittsburgh. His nephew was in charge then, and he decided to sell it, pipes.
What were your duties on that oil rig? What'd you do?
Well, what they called tool dresser then. There's just a drill in the tool dresser,
Now, what does the tool dresser do?
Huh?
What does the tool dresser do?
Well, you worked on the rig. What I mean, you was there when it pulled out. Of course, you're keeping up the steam and all that stuff. But you was a fireman. In other words.
Yeah. Now, what does a fireman do?
Well, You have to dress the dress the bits. We dressed the bits.
Is that sharpening the bits?
Had a forward, and you put it in there, and a crane, you lifted by.
How heavy is that bit?
Well, it depends on. It'll just run. Well, you started in with we did on that. Now some of them I worked on another for. Later, at 16, we got the first production out to southwest of Mold. It's a freak well. Got it 2900 on Christmas 1915. Then they built another well that some Bohemians in Oklahoma said they called motor oil and gas. He hadn't come down there and got that little production, put a kind of a, he could make gasoline and fuel oil. And that was, of course, all. When the Seminole boom started in 26, it was over there in 27. Well, there's lots of wells. They're drilling. I came back up there and the work wasn't for me. You drilled the wells in when you got down around 400, 200 feet. The rotors, like I tell you, the rock bed wasn't improved up to what it is anymore now. Because they drill right on with the rotary all the way. Use rock bits principally. Just go right ahead.
What's that bit made of?
Well, it's pretty hard steel. I mean, the rotary bit, the rock bits, they call them.
Yeah.
It's a knobby-looking thing that just keeps it, speeded.
What about the cable tool bit?
Oh, well, they're just great bits, but they're up to pretty heavy bits, yeah.
How far do you drop that bit each time in the standard?
Well, I can't tell you that. It depends on the formation, when you hit that hard rock.
I mean, how far do you lift the bit and then drop it?
Let's see. Well, depends on the jars.
Yeah.
You got the long jars and the shorter jars. I can't just tell you.
Yeah.
Those things are, they're locked, and they bounce. You got to have a little bounce.
Who built the wooden derricks?
Huh?
Who built the derricks for those rigs?
Well, maybe you didn't have a steady job all the time. I've built derricks.
How do you build a derrick?
Huh?
Where do you get the wood for those derricks?
Well, it's extra heavy. What I mean, even the rig is built. The standard rig is 84 feet. The rotary rigs, or it depends on how many joints of pipe you run. Stand it up in the derrick.
What kind of wood makes the best derrick?
Well, I always use pine.
Pine. Where'd the lumber come from?
Well, a lot of the lumber came from down in the Choctaw country in the state of Oklahoma.
So there's 2 men on the standard rig.
2 men. When you don't pull a string of pipe or run the string of pipe.
The tool dresser and the driller?
Tool dresser and the driller.
Now what does the driller do?
Well, he does the drilling. And you wait on him. Except when you're dressing the bit. Of course, we dress bits, no matter how big it was, 10 inches, 12 inches.
How often do you have to dress the bit?
Well, you'll get one nearly every day. That's a man-killing job. We work 12 hours, and they don't do that anymore. We work 8. Sometimes you work 18 hours.
Yeah. Now, exactly, I don't understand what the driller does, what his job is.
He gets up there and he lets it down.
Oh, he's one that lets a bit down. Yeah, I've seen this walking beam.
Yeah.
Now, what does that do?
Well, that lifts it. You know, it turns over. It don't turn over. It just works up and down.
That's what left and dropping the bit?
Yeah. And you have a screw in there that you can let out. You let that. Yeah, I quit that in the Depression time. Just about the Depression. Got to where there wasn't no place much to go. And I went in construction.
Before we get into that, when did you join the Army?
Well, I was drafted. When I was working for those Bohemians, said, well, we need you too. You just stay. I made several trips to Oklahoma City. I think I'd go in anything in artillery like that. But I didn't like that walking. Too much. Of course, you're going to do some of it. Anything you do.
So you were drafted?
So I was drafted. They had a special call, and they called 1,000 people out of Oklahoma City between the regular calls. I got in there. We were artillery replacements. Well, in time we left Shawnee, why, that's 2 months from the state where I left Hoboken, New Jersey, for France.
What'd you take your...
If you go in a replacement, you don't have to have as much training. You're with the fellas that already knows, you see. And it makes a lot of difference here.
What'd you take your basic training?
Oh, we went to New Orleans and stayed 2 weeks in tent camp, and that is to take our shots and all the vaccinations and all that stuff. Well, we didn't get it quite done. In other words, we were going to South Carolina, Columbus, South Carolina. And, of course, you got to be somewhere till they unload a bunch from there. And then we were sent in there. But we still, for some reason or other, had to take some more shots. And we only stayed there about 5 weeks, I guess, something like that. We were sent out for overseas to Camp Mary, New Jersey. And we left from Hoboken on an English boat.
What was the name of the ship?
Manakata. There's an English ship.
What was the name again?
Manakata.
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 How do you spell that?
I don't know if I can do that right now.
Did you sail past the Statue of Liberty?
Huh?
Did you sail past the Statue of Liberty?
I don't think so.
Yeah. How long did the trip take to Europe?
Well, of course, you know the Germans had lots of submarines. I say a lot. So we took a northern route, they call it. We was almost 2 weeks to get making it over to Liverpool. Then we got off the boat and went on a train across to the channel side. We stayed there, I guess, that night and left the next night. Across the channel. Landed at Cherbourg.
Did you get sick? Did you get seasick on the trip over?
No, I didn't. But I did when I come back.
Where did you sleep on the ship?
Hammock.
And how many men were on the ship with you?
Well, I don't really know. There was supposed to have been 1,000 of us went in that call. And of course, some when they got down to New Orleans, well, they sent them back home. There's, of course, the doctor, you know, and he just didn't want to be, I guess, at fault about men not going. They just sent them down there. They raised it up about it and sent them back. Some had TB pretty bad. Now that's how they took them. So, well, there wasn't nothing wrong with me, but then we got over there and that's when we hit the flu pretty bad. There was a lot of people went, I never saw anymore. I don't know what happened to them. But finally, we stayed around about 12 kilometers out of Bass on the Marne River, and that's when we lost a lot of sickness, you know what I mean. I don't know whether they died or what.
Or the flu epidemic?
Yeah. And then we stayed there, I don't know, I guess a month, and then went down to southern France, the place where they sent them to the front from replace people that had come out of the regular divisions.
What division were you in?
Well, I wound up with the 28th in the transporter battery. That's still an artillery, but it's worse than the infantry.
The 28th Division?
28th Division, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Well, we was attached to them as the 103rd Transporter Battery. It had been a original, it is pretty high-class boys, you know, in it, because it was cavalry, National Guard, and they sent them overseas, and they made a transporter battery out of them. They didn't need the cavalry. That's right up. Well, we had 6-inch guns. It was you loaded from the barrel in, set in at about 45 degrees when you fired them out of a trank. The shell weighed 52 pounds.
How far would that shell fire?
1,000 yards, 45 degrees. Full loading. Full charge. But it had 52 pounds of explosive.
How'd you carry that trench mortar?
Huh?
How'd you carry that trench mortar?
Well, you just, it was a British gun. It was borrowed from the British. It was only 5.5, 2 feet long, but it set in a disc with pins, you know, and that clinometer to hold it, and you could pull it this way, that way. 2 men carried that thing and dropped it in the barrel. It had rings in it. It's like a cylinder in the car. It'd go down and hit the pin at the bottom, that shell that's in the bottom of that thing. It had 2 different colors, one blue and one red. Red was instantaneous. So when, concussion is it hit 2/5 of a second. And the blue one is delay fuse. It hit that striking pin down there, in the bottom of the barrel, is round in, and you put it in, and the turnbuckle fell down. But after I was put in it, they come out of France on the front. They lost 46 men at one shot. That's how we got in there. We was in training already up to Illinois. The same size and everything. And they took 46 of us out of the 200 that sent up there. And we went to Belgium. Of course, had them on, Germans on the run. They had lots of heavy artillery up there.
Did you go into Belgium?
Oh yes, it's in Belgium.
What part of Belgium?
Well, we joined them at Ypres. It was torn all to pieces. And we done everything because it's getting late in the year then. I went on ammunition trains. They do so 4 or 6 of us on that detail. And we actually never fired the trench mortar for the armistice.
When did you join the 28th Division?
I don't remember the date.
You know where?
Yeah, that Ypres, that's what I said, that's
Okay.
where we joined them. They'd already went, see. And well, I don't know, they get misinstructed some about something. And we went to where they were in France, and they had left. That's how the orders get mixed.
What were your thoughts about going into combat?
Huh?
What were your thoughts about going into combat?
Well, it wasn't no thought to it, you just do it.
What major battles were you in?
wasn't in no battle.
So,
It was an engagement. That's why they figured.
so what engagements were you in?
Well, it is in that sector of Belgium. I can't tell you that just exactly.
So were you there when the armistice was signed?
Oh yeah.
What did you do when they declared the armistice?
Well, we just moved back to another place where you could get billeted. See?
Did you celebrate?
No.
You didn't. Why?
Well, you didn't know for sure that it was so.
What was the reaction of the French people to the Americans?
Well, it seemed to be everything is all right. It was, of course, the French and the British are both up in Belgium. And they got right there right away because they must have located it a weak spot or something, because they were retreating pretty fast. It wasn't the same thing each day. You did lots of moving. We originally had 12 trucks, but the one was blown up and that beat us for people killed. And so we had 11 trucks. The old Nash Quad, I don't know whether you ever saw them or not. Yeah, I guess you have. The schools got a lot of them, that kind of stuff, you know, like after the war. They issued there's a big old square body truck, solid tires. And we had no lights.
No lights.
No lights.
How you travel at night?
Well, they did on. Is somebody you just in a convoy like going in a setup, but you never. It just finally just parked them. And I tell you, we went ammunition trains and they were so many go every night for the 80s.
When did you return to the States?
In must have been April 1919. We came back on our battery came back on the old battleship North Carolina because we were A1 men to take care of everything and put off some sailors because they was going to put it in mothballs when we got here at old North Carolina. I think they built another one. Or named another ship after it, but it was to go in mothballs when we got to the States. And we come back to Camp Merritt, same camp we left from.
Is that New Jersey?
Yeah, Patterson, New Jersey.
Did you come into New York Harbor?
Huh?
Did you sail into New York Harbor?
I didn't understand you.
Did you sail into New York Harbor when you returned?
No, you come back at Hoboken.
Hoboken. Did you pass the Statue of Liberty?
I don't remember.
Yeah, okay.
You know, that old light that came back here. We got here early because they turned all the trench mortar stuff back to the British. And we come down to Le Mans, France, and come through that delousing plant. That's what they call it over there. That's the sanitary process. When you get in the state, you might get some again before you got here. You know, them old boats anywhere. So, no, I had a little hard luck. They lost their service records when we got that, the whole boatload, not just one, everybody. We was 8 months before I got any money. Did you got the last pay when you left Camp Merritt? No more for 8 months. What we done? And we had a time till we got assigned in the battery. See, replaced. I don't know what the other fellas done. But there was every time you moved, it was cut down men or some way. We went down south of Bordeaux, stayed about a week, I guess, and got sent out. Replacement.
What ship?
But that was, we had what little training we done was field artillery. And so we signed a trench mortar. That's a different deal altogether. You throw hand grenades, practice that bayonet business, and firing trench mortars.
Can you describe the inside of a trench?
Well, I don't know if I could. I don't know that. It's something like as high as a wall. Yeah.
About 8 feet?
Yeah, something like that.
How wide are the trenches?
Well, there's there'll be places cut out more than others, you see, where you get around, where you got a lot of ammunition piled in there. And you have to get around that gun. That's why I guess one man could, but with his hand there, in a way they got it arranged for two to carry that shell. And you carry it up like that, see, and you get to that gun, you can dump it in there. You can put your head back on, you get the blast right out of there. It'll make your nose bleed and all that kind of stuff.
Were the sides of the trench, were they covered with anything?
No.
Just bare dirt?
This dirt.
What were those trenches like when it rained?
Well, you can imagine. You just want to be there as anywhere. It's all open above. There's no place to get to dry.
What is trench foot?
Huh?
What is trench foot?
Transfer.
Yeah. No, trench foot. Heard they got a sore on the foot or something? The men?
Well, when you, that gun comes all to pieces except the barrel.
Yeah.
And I told you, like it's 5.5 feet long, and it's round on the bottom, oval, see? And it's got the pins in there that everything, and then the inside of it, of course, it's barrel is solid, you know. But it's molded that way. But it sets in a disc like another bowl fastened into that, see? And you have timbers in that truck. It's a gun to each truck. But then you put it in the trench and set it up like a bead, and you put that disc down there. You fold it down, and your gun barrel sits in that. And then it pins back on the back that sticks out and comes down. It gets down in there like that. You've got your clinometer on your set up there. You fasten it down, and then you can turn it, you know, like a, and pull that barrel. Either way, it's got a thing on it telling you degrees and everything. And it'll fire 1,000 yards in the bottom, in that shell, there's gun cotton and flake chloride. And 4 pieces, little bags, of that stuff. They'll come here looking about like a Duke's mixture, smoking tobacco, but people used to smoke roll of cigarettes in it, and the bull durham sacks, and that's got a flake chloride. Mm-hmm. There's 4 packages that goes in there, and it fires off, and it pushes and blows that shell out of there. It'll shoot 1,000 yards at 45 degrees, like that. That's all.
Yeah. What kind of food did you have in the trenches?
Well, you'd usually eat stuff out of cans. Unless you're where the kitchen is now. Like when we were in training, well, it wasn't mealtime when you were there. Because you were just practicing.
You have good food in the trenches?
Well, it might be corned beef.
Where were the trains for the trenches?
Just wherever you. You know, when you're throwing those hand grenades out of there, if you hit the bank, they tell you how to, stand, swing, do that. Short fellas do have a little trouble. Well, one fellow I remember, he just couldn't hardly get it over there. That track. Of course, they wasn't live then, but you're supposed to jump on it, don't make any difference. You don't get the whole bunch killed.
If those trenches were 8 feet deep, how did you go over the top?
How'd you get over the top?
Yeah.
Well, let's place the back. The back. You could get out.
So is that how you went out to go over the top to fight the Germans?
Well, you're facing the enemy by, it's straight bank.
But how'd you go out to go fight the Germans? How'd you go over the top?
Well, you just have to. This place is cut where you can get out.
Okay.
But you're not wanting out there. Because them fellas are shooting at you just like you are them.
Did you ever go over the top?
No. Of course, like I tell you, about all I ever got much of it is that was in training.
When'd you get your discharge?
Little Rock,
What year?
1919.
Did you return to Oklahoma?
Oh yeah, they give you a passage. They give you the ticket to, I was coming to Shawnee. Of course, it wasn't everybody them. See, they all went to their native counties and then to Oklahoma City, and they left from Oklahoma City to go to New Orleans. To take that 2 weeks training there, take the shots down there. You didn't do any training down there. You just taking shots.
Would you tell me about... Oh, go ahead. Would you tell me about moving the county seat from Tecumseh to Shawnee?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that.
I can't tell you about it much. I wasn't very old then. I might have been. I don't remember just what year it was, but that was the county seat when we came to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And however, we lived in Shawnee a while. And Dad bought a place there in the bottom, and he made $1,200 on it. He didn't move on it. He never did move on it. In the bottom land, what they grazed in around Shawnee mostly was potatoes. That was a potato country. And that's Canadian over the water. And he bought 80 acres on the Tecumseh side. See, Shawnee's just across, about 5 miles. It was in an urban line. You go from Shawnee to Tecumseh. And like everywhere else, like Oklahoma City then, you go to El Reno and electric cars for long years. Finally, no.
So did you go back to work in the oil fields?
No, I worked up to the Depression, and then I went on construction. Of course, I'd already, nailed derricks and set lots of engines were roustabout for the old Prairie.
What company were you a roustabout?
Huh?
For what company were you a roustabout?
For the Prairie.
Prairie? What years?
Well, that was broken lot. I would be nailing derrick or something. Back then you didn't have a steady job like some of them when they got into production and things like that.
So
when you was just wildcatting, just wildcat there.
So what does a roustabout do?
Well, there's a lot of things you do. You do a lot of pipe fitting, one thing or another. They short lines, you know, gas or oil lines, and back then, you know, but they dug the pipeline. The pipeline was all done by hand then. I never worked a pipeline in my life.
How long is that pipe stem in the well? Each piece of pipe stem.
Huh?
How long is each length of pipe stem?
Well, in cable tools, you had several strings of pipe. You started in with maybe 100 feet or so of 16-inch or possibly 20-inch pipe. Now, Skelly used to do contracting too, Skelly Oil Company. And they drilled one well there for the old Prairie. They come up from Ardmore. And of course, I don't know, I guess when Jack Skelly was the man that run the drilling rigs for Skelly, W.G. Skelly. But I think when he died out, that was it. By Skelly drilling.
Did you know Skelly?
Didn't know him, no. I've seen him.
Did you live in any of the boom towns?
Huh?
Did you live in the boom towns in the 20s?
In the 20s?
Yeah. No, in the oil
Not
boom
in the
towns?
20s,
Like,
no. No, there wasn't any boom towns down there. Well, I been up to Open Wallet.
were you ever in Seminole during the oil boom?
Not much. Because I'd lived in Moulton before, and while I was stayed down in Hondo, Texas, west of San Antonio, about 50 miles there.
What'd you do down there?
I was dressing tools
For who?
for a promotion company.
Promotion company.
Yes, sir. They done lots of welds yourself. That's how the welds all got drilled. A promotion, not the companies. Back earlier, you got a block of land, and you got the leases signed up with all the people, and you started drilling. You sell some leases to major companies. They would buy them to have little interest if you got anything. See, lots of is the wildcatters is what got the oil fields. I know if a fella come over that first well that was drilled in. I first done any work on it in 1914.
What is a wildcatter?
Well, he don't have them anymore much. It's most of the companies now.
I mean, but who was he?
Huh?
Who was a wildcatter?
Well, he'd be some fellow that was trying to make a little money. What I mean, that he would try to get some production. He could sell it. That's how they all got big. Some was lucky, some wasn't. The old fellow that started that well at Maud, my dad hewed the rig timbers for that rig out of native trees, walking beam and everything. And it's built, and he just couldn't make it. He wasn't a good enough promoter. That's why those Bohemians bought him from Oklahoma City.
What were their names?
Well, Frank McCoskey was the head of the deal. You know the attorney McCoskey.
Yeah.
What is his first name?
George?
George. Yeah. Did he run for governor once?
I'm not sure.
Well, anyway, they had some. There was John. Well, the old man had the beer joint. He had the beer brewery, Closel, or Chrysler, however you want to pronounce it. He worked. I worked for him. Just me and other old boys out to Yukon. He went to work in the restaurant, and I went to work at that damn mill, flour mill. He had a red mill. Old man that had the beer brewery, Closel, John Closel. But he was a flour miller. I understood he may not that he came from Minnesota, that he was a flour miller to go with. And that old man could sit down and drink 5 gallons of beer. Now he had money, and he was in the deal there that went to go in with a little more oil and gas company. I worked for him.
You did?
Yeah. Me and another guy that went to the World War I, Gallion, he was a driller. But he got out of it about a year. He got a shrapnel in his temple. He was in the infantry. And they took one of his short ribs, put up in his temple. He was a little woozy for a while.
Did you do
He's
any?
dead now.
Yeah. Did you do any work for the CCC program or WPA?
No.
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 When you went into construction, where were you living?
Where we're living?
Yes, sir.
Seminole.
Seminole.
But that wasn't in Oldsville, that was construction. I worked for a fellow named Week. He built a lot of houses around Seminole and in Seminole.
What year did you start construction?
Well, that must have been, I had went back down during the Depression to Hondo and worked for whatever I could get around that. There's a German settlement, they all had money. And that's where I worked in the Wildcats for 4 years, 23 to 27. Then I worked at a lot of different things during that time. Dairy and everything. Well, I wasn't in the milk, I wasn't no milker. They had milk machines, but I fed the cattle.
Who was the biggest bootlegger in Seminole?
Who was the biggest bootlegger? I couldn't tell you that. There was a lot of them there in the boom time.
Where'd they get their whiskey?
Where'd they get it?
Yeah.
That I can't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
They were mostly Greeks. Of course, there was other fellas too. The making whiskey.
Where'd they make their whiskey?
Thank God. I wouldn't know the lots that's shipped in, hauled in a truck car from the Choctaw country. That is all whiskey makers down. Down in that. They said, hell, that's an occupation.
What did you do during World War II?
World War II?
Yeah.
Well, I went first down to Abilene, and I got sick. I don't think it was flu or nothing. And I came back, and they had called me to Wichita Falls. Not the Wichita Falls, or west of, west of Fort Worth. And I couldn't make it. So then I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, in 41. That's where I joined the Union. And I stayed in the Union 43 years. I worked for DuPont at Prairie, Oklahoma, about almost a year. Didn't get quite a year because I'd got 2 weeks vacation I didn't get. But what stopped that job at Prairie was when they started that atomic business.
What?
Atomic.
Yeah.
And so we were working on the TNT business, plant. It's separate from the fighter.
There at Prairie?
At Prairie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they ever did finish that. When you go to work for DuPont and you make the job, the first man on is the last one off. Of course, a lot of their men come down from, up in Indiana and different places, older man hands. And I didn't get quite a year. And then I went down to Lawton, worked on that, the building camp. I was working for Deputy Basin from Dallas. And coming in October, it's been dry all summer, hot all board. And sir, it rained over, it's full of, you couldn't tell what this was. So I quit the next day and went to Fort Smith. Sorry I ever went down there. That's when I went on up and went to work for DuPont.
What were you doing at Prairie? What kind of work?
Carpenter work.
Carpenter work.
Yeah.
Were you building?
Well, I had done quite a bit of it before, many times during the break and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to work for them. I hired out them on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
I lived at Ada. I had a wife and kids down there. I went down there and back and went to work the next day after Christmas. Well, it seemed to me like, I don't know what Christmas was on Sunday that year. No, that was in 41.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked back till November 42. I lived in Muskogee. My wife died of cancer, brain tumor cancer.
What was your wife's name?
Her last name?
Yeah.
Her maiden name?
Yeah.
Davis.
What was her first name?
Lillian.
And when were you married?
She's buried at Stonewall.
Hmm?
She's buried at Stonewall.
No, when were you married?
Huh?
What year were you married?
36. I was 41 years old when I married.
How many children do you have?
4.
4?
The oldest girl's been in St. Louis ever since she was got out of high school. It's a daily. She was living with her aunt, her mother's sister. He was her husband was a mailman, and he then I went. After she died, I was working with McAllister, that last contract on that naval ordnance.
What were you working on down there?
Was building storages.
Oh, okay.
And when that was over, I went to Dow Chemicals at Freeport, Texas, down by the ship channel. The ship channel comes down to Houston.
Yeah. Were you there when that had the big explosion in Texas City?
No, that wasn't. That wasn't Texas City.
It wasn't.
It's Freeport.
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 Is that where
It's the west of the Chip Channel.
were you there when that blew up?
No. No. Then I went to San Antonio and turned my book in there, and went to work Kerrville. They enlarged them. A hospital that's built for World War I TB patients, and they were made for nervous breaks and things, fellas like that. And then I went to Corpus Christi stayed 3 years. Went down there to build some houses.
When you say you joined the union, is that the Carpenters Union?
Yeah, Carpenters Union.
Yeah.
Then I worked back. I went up to Santa Fe, New Mexico. Then and well, there's a bear in that storing that atomic mixture stuff up at Los Alamos. But I worked for DuPont again in up in the state of Washington. We went to Pasco is where we went. But the little town down on the Columbia River, they bought the government, but that's where I worked. They called it a heavy water deal. I don't know what it was. We built cells, 40 by 40. That stainless steel pipe goes in there just like but you never saw one when it finished. I was carpenter, and they changed the millwright up there because they wanted the fellows to. Everybody said work for them before, under 50 years old, and I just barely was. But I went to work for them.
When did you retire?
Oh, well, after I got the 30 years, consecutive years, you get a pension from the carpenters. But I served that out, and then they pay. You still pay your dues, $72 a year for insurance. But I stayed till when Reagan was first elected. They wasn't for Reagan. It was for what was that fellow's name? Was Vice President under Carter. Him and a woman.
Not McGovern. No.
Oh well, it is in 1980.
It's Minnesota.
Huh? He's Minnesota.
Yeah.
I can't think of it right now, but he's Vice President Carter.
Mondale,
yeah. So I wasn't for him anyway. That's when I quit. I stayed till 84. Belonged to Oklahoma City. But I had, for 17 years, I'd been out of love.
How do you like it here in Sulphur?
I don't.
You don't?
I can't see. My sight ain't no good, and I've been going up there 5 years.
Yeah.
I haven't been here all the time.
Yeah.
I came here with the shingles. I had an apartment at Malden when they took my cataracts out. That was 5 years ago in 14th of December. And then the next normal birthday is February. And that's it. Dilate my eyes. I've had laceration implants in there once, both of us. But the man come and done this 2 years ago. He said, "We'll treat you for glaucoma." I said, "I don't no confidence." It still is the truth.
Well,
All of that dilate my eyes. you're never well. I'm taking eye drops twice a day. Now, she come back in a year. I was up there last June 8th. Come back in a year. Well, they give me some colored glasses to wear. I can't wear them. Do any good. These ain't much. I don't see much. I can't read a paper or nothing like that.
Well, anything else about the old days you want to talk about?
Well, I don't know.
Well, I think we have a good interview.
Oh, I put those glasses on sit in the room and then I can wear them outside, but I don't have good footing when I do.
Yeah.
You can't see down like you want to see.
Right.
And after it's got to where it's raining, well, I don't go out there. I like outside all right. I've always been an outside worker.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, well,